welcome back to Glancet. So today I am going to discuss about a very important concept, that is asset properties in the subject of database management system. So in this video I am going to discuss about what are asset properties, then we'll discuss each one of the property and with a real time example. Now let's get started. So sorry, I need to select the color white. Okay. So, what are asset properties? But before we dive into what are asset properties, first we need to understand what a transaction means. I think you will be having an idea what a transaction means because you make lots of transactions in your real life using your UPIs, right? So, let's see the example. That's it. To get some idea, let's say you want to send money to B's account. So what happens is, so the money will get deducted from A's account and the money will be added to the B's account. So these two steps together is known as one transaction. That means your transaction is successful. So here as defined, a transaction is simply group of steps that must happen together. So these are the group of steps that are happening together. So that is nothing but a transaction. Now let's understand what are asset properties, but before I will clear this. Okay. Now, what are asset properties? Let's say that you went to a bank to deposit some 10 lakhs of money. So you can't directly go to a bank employee and say, hey, I have about 10 lakhs money, please deposit it into my account. No, you can't say like that. There are some set of rules you need to follow if you want to deposit some amount of money. So what you will do, you will fill one form, you will give it to the bank employee, there he will verify all your details. Later he will say that you need to go to this particular counter in order to deposit that money. So that is how the process you follow when you want to deposit that money, right? So here the database also has to follow some set of rules in order to store your data. So whenever your transaction is happening, no, the database also has to follow some set of rules in order to make sure that the data should stay safe, correct, and reliable. Even if something goes wrong, it should be safe. The data should be safe, correct, and reliable. So now let's understand what each alphabet stands in asset properties. So A stands for atomicity, which means that it will either the entire transaction happens or nothing happens. If one transaction is successful, then it is okay. If while doing some transaction is something failed, then it will not consider the transaction. And then C means consistency means, so consistency means valid data in the database. The data which it is storing, it should be valid. And then isolation means, it means that every transaction is independent of other transactions. Sometimes it happens, no. See, we are making some transactions. At the same time, the other person is also making some transaction, but his transaction should not affect our transaction. That is isolation. And coming to the durability, so whenever a transaction is successful, even if the server crashes or the app closes, the data should be saved permanently in the database. So these are the four properties. Let's dive deep into this. Okay, now understand about atomicity. Atomicity means all or nothing. Either the entire transaction happens or nothing happens. Now I'll tell you one example. Let's say there is a person A and he is having bank balance as some 5,000 rupees. And there is another person B who is having bank balance as 100 rupees. Now A wants to transfer some 500 rupees to B. So it will be minus, right? It will be deducting from his account. So he wants to transfer some 500 rupees to B's account. So after this money gets deducted from A's account, it will be added to the B's account. and the remaining balance should be some 4,500, and here the remaining balance is 600, right? So here the transaction is successful. And there is another case. The case 2 is, now this A is transferring 500 amount to B. Okay? After, sorry, now the amount 500 is deducted from A's account. But after this step, suddenly internet goes off and it will not reflect in B's account. It will show a error message saying that the transaction has been failed, so the amount will be reversed. So if one step fails while doing the transaction, then what the atomicity will do is it will undo the transaction. It will undo this step. Whatever the money is deducted from his account, it will undo this step. And again, that 500 will be back to this A's account. The process of undoing the transaction is nothing but rollback. We'll call it as rollback. So in case 1, the transaction is successful. In case 2, one transaction step will fail, so it will undo it. So that undo process is known as rollback. As stated here, either the entire transaction happens. If that transaction is not happening, then nothing will happen. So this is atomicity. Here we'll discuss about consistency. Okay. Consistency. Consistency means the database should always remain in a valid state before and after transaction. So I'll explain you the same example. Like A is having the bank balance as 5,000 rupees and B is having the bank balance as 100 rupees. Now A is trying to send before transaction A is having the remaining balance as 5,000, some B is having the remaining balance as 100 rupees. Okay, now after transaction, that means A is transferring some 500 rupees to B. So after transaction it is 4,500, and here the amount is added, so after transaction it is 700. So here whenever a transaction is happening or before the transaction, it should be in valid state. That means here before the transaction this number is valid, right? This data is valid, and after the transaction also this should tally. So here 5,000 minus 500, it is 4,500. But if it is showing 4,700, so it is invalid data. Here if it is still showing 100 rupees, then it is invalid data. So consistency will make sure that the data is in valid state before and after transaction. So there is another case. This is another case. Let's say A is having the bank balance of 0 and B is having the bank balance as 100 rupees. Okay. Now A don't know that he is having no bank balance in his account. So what he does is he tries to send some 100 rupees to B. But here an error message is displayed, that is no sufficient balance. Why? How it can be displayed? Because of consistency only it will be displaying that there is no sufficient balance, you can't transfer it. So this is one case and this is second case. If there is no consistency rule followed, then even 500 gets deducted from your account, it will show some invalid bank balance, and even if you have 0 rupees in your bank, it will transfer some 100 rupees. So because of consistency only valid the data should be in valid state before and after the transaction. Now let's see what is meant by isolation. Isolation means two transactions happening at the same time should not affect each other. That means the transaction should be independent of each other, right? Let's say the example is, let's say you are trying to book movie tickets, that is for morning show, that is first day first show, and in some theater, let's say Sandhya theater. And while you are searching for the tickets, there is only one ticket remaining in that particular show and theater, and you try to book that ticket. At the same time, another person is also trying to book that ticket. Without isolation, for both of them, this ticket will show as it is booked. But but it is a problem, right? How can it show? How can two persons get booked the same seat? No, it is not possible. No, if there is an isolation, then one person, he will receive some message like your transaction is successful or your seat is booked. He will receive that message. But for another person, it will show that the seat is not available. So, if one is doing the transaction, it should not affect the other person at the same time. So, this is isolation. And now, the last property is durability. What is durability? So, when your transaction is completely done, it is successful, and the data is stored in the database. Even if something happens, even if the server crashes or something happens after your transaction is done, the data is already stored in database, so it is not deleted. So there is one example. Let's say after you complete a UPI payment, the bank update the statements. Even if server restarts, the transaction cannot disappear. So here it is. After you done certain payments, the bank will update the statement. If some server crashes or some app closes, if something has happened, it won't disappear that transaction. So this is durability. I hope that you got some idea on this asset properties. Okay, thank you for watching. If you really like my content, please do like, subscribe, and share it to your friends. Thank you. Bye.